Welcome to Eye on the Illini. Fantastic, fantastic, time to be an Illini fan. At least we're here. We are in November, and we have the team that an Illinois team that's 6-3 going into November. Brett Bielema's kind of changed the way this program is being looked at and the way it performs. And it's nice to be a part of this. And I'm not saying it's, it would be great if they were 9-0 right now, but they're not that. But what a great victory, 35-13. Ked, initial thoughts on this victory?
Yes, bowl eligible.
Yep.
Just put that in perspective. They're bowl eligible for the second consecutive year. Mike, you and I are about the same age, almost months apart. And I'm just going to say, for the young Illinois fans out there, I know you're upset about the college playoff. Mike and I have seen the changes, the way the football program works with college, the NIL. We've seen the college playoffs. This is all new and changes. We've seen Illinois football when it's at its worst. I was at the USC game, and there was bowl representation there to begin with. They know Illinois is going to be a bowl team. You cannot continue to take these for granted. Brett Bielema wants to win games. Is he the best college football coach there is in the country? No. Who is? Who really is? But he's put Illinois on the map. They're competitive. The talent level is great. I will say this, and my job with the Illini Guys is recruiting. It is better. It is way better. The depth is a lot better. Do I think they need more speed in the secondary? Because you saw Aaron Henry today. I saw him down. Everybody saw it. You can get on here and say, Kedrick, it was against a junior high team, whatever you want to say. Rutgers passes the ball. They're a good passing team. They did things today that was different. I even tweeted out today, Gabe Yakas was visible today. You saw them get to the quarterback, deflect passes. So to me, this was a great win. I really and truly wish I could have seen the same kind of effort maybe against in Ohio State or Washington. It wouldn't have mattered against Indiana. It just wasn't their night. I'm cool with that. They've just, it is what it is, Mike. But a good overall performance. It wasn't sold out, but it wasn't empty. It didn't look terrible on TV. 11 o'clock game. It looks really, really good to be on national TV again to show that they're competitive. And the players didn't sulk and pout either. They looked like they were having fun and trying to win. My only negative thing, and this is probably really poor and unprofessional on my part, Brett Bielema was a classy guy, and I love that about him. But they ran the ball every time to end the game. Keep the first down and don't give Rutgers the ball back. Teams would not do that to him. You don't need to try to embarrass him, put up 70 the way Indiana did, but I would not have given Rutgers the ball back. This is different. So that's my only negative I have of the whole, or maybe the pass interference call they called to give them a touchdown. Other than that, I'm happy.
Yeah, I think this was, let's go over the stat line because I think that is something that is really important to kind of talk about as we go into this because Illinois did a fine job. They outgained Rutgers 445 to 312, but Rutgers got 146 of those yards in the fourth quarter. So when you take a look at what they did, it was quite an opportunity for Illinois in terms of playing defense and really turning a Rutgers team that, despite its record, has played against some good defenses, Iowa, Minnesota, didn't do so well against Oregon, but they are one of the best offenses in the Big Ten. Illinois was outpassed 253 to 235. Again, most of those was during the fourth quarter that those yards piled up when Illinois was in a prevent defense. The Illini outrushed them 210 yards to 159. They didn't do it exactly in Brett Bielema style because he doesn't usually expect his quarterback to lead the team in rushing yards, but nonetheless, very well done. A well-played game with a combined 5 penalties for both teams. I know you were mad about one of the 2 Illini penalties. Illinois had 26 first downs. They were 7 for 12 on third downs and held Rutgers to 6 for 16, which meant that they could get off the field occasionally. Rutgers was 3 for 4 on fourth downs. Illinois was 3 for 3. The big difference was Illinois was 6.4 yards per play, and Rutgers was at 4.3. And a lot of that was Luke Altmaier's legs. Yards for completion, 12.4 to 10.1. Again, another advantage to Illinois. And I think if you look at red zone attempts, Illinois was 5 for 5. Time of possession, Illinois ended up 32-35 versus 27-25. Rutgers did have the lead at the half. Illinois only had one turnover, which was a tipped pass. And when you looked at, there was no fumbles. Illinois was sacked twice for 13, once for 7 for Rutgers. So Altmaier was 19 for 31 with 235 yards, 4 touchdowns, his 4th interception of the year, and his 3rd interception that has been a result of a tipped pass. He also led the team at 7 attempts for 88 yards rushing. The Illini ended up doing quite well in that thing, and Ethan Kalikmanis, was 25 for 45 with 253, 1 touchdown, completed 56% of his passes. For most of the game, Ked, he was well under 50%. So I look at this as a really nice showing by the Illinois defense. And say what you want. Again, we talked, with Brian Fonseca, who covers the Rutgers team. This team was the team that the wide receivers have caused damage downfield. Raymond has had opportunity to get yards, and Illinois really held this team down. I thought it was a good defensive effort, and it's really important because next week is a Maryland team, and Illinois needs to go 3-0 to get to that 9-3 record.
Well, Mike, you gave out some great statistics. And the one statistic that really sticks out or stands out to me is Rutgers was 6 for 16 on third downs. For weeks, we have all been saying it. Get off the field. Somehow you have to get off the field. Fourth downs, I don't mind they were 3 for 4. I'm cool with that because some of those yards were 2 and 3 yards, and there are plays where that there's always a go-to play because Illinois was 3 for 3 themselves. So I'm cool with that. I think that's telling. Now they have to continue to build on it. I think Rutgers is a young team, but they can also pass the ball, and I think they're going to be tested again next week. Maryland. But overall, it was a good performance. I don't want to say I'm concerned, but maybe I am, and maybe you'll agree with me. I just want to see Aiden Lawfrey, Khalil Ballantyne, or maybe Caden Fagan run the ball better. I mean, as a team, they had 210 yards rushing, I believe, but a lot of that was Luke Altmaier. He had 88 of those yards. So, I mean, that's a concern. And this can't be the scheme. Is the guys missing blocks? Today, Khalil Ballantyne, he wasn't his explosive self. He typically doesn't dance around in the backfield. He gets the ball and he goes. So maybe he's not 100% healthy. I don't know. But that's probably a team concern I would really like to see them improve on.
Yeah, I would agree. They were, out of the tailback position. Tailback position was 104 yards on 28 carries, so 3.7 yards per carry out of your tailback position is not what Brett Bielema is looking for out of his team. So we know that that's something that he would definitely want some improvement on, and they'll be pushing on that. But for you listening to us here on STL Sports Central in Missouri, get ready. The wait is almost over. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is coming soon to the Show Me state, and you can sign up right now today. New Missouri customers can get $300 in bonus bets when we launch on December 1st. Download now and place a $5 bet when we go live. DraftKings Sportsbook brings everything you need to elevate your game day, including live in-game betting, lightning-fast payouts, and endless ways to get in on the action, all right from your phone. And when we officially go live in Missouri, you'll be betting with the Sportsbook app trusted by millions. Safe, secure, and has fast money withdrawals. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code STL Sports to grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when we go live on December 1st. That's code STL Sports in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. And of course, in-game betting, they are always betting. Is Ked going to be the first one to complain about refs, or will it be me in an Illini game? So there's always that. They monitor our Twitter, and then they're like, well, this idiot already complained. And then, boom, they blow the whistle on us. Ked?
Wait a minute. Did somebody just say that? Or am I going to be the first to complain?
Oh, you might be. Between you and I. Hey, look at this, though. Hey, look at this, though, Ked. This has to be our longest one. Enjoying the show from Russia. All right. Say hi to Vlad for me. And it's awesome that you guys are able to partake of this. Yeah, no, I got to be honest with you. But then I'll find out that there's a Russia, Illinois. And I'll be like, well, so much for our sense of long-term. But Greg, hey, safe travels out there. And he sent us a note from Russia with love. So, and I get a James Bond title in the middle of a broadcast. So, as I look at this game this week, we saw Illinois doing a better job of disguising their blitzes. And I thought they did some switching up of coverages, and I thought they kept, for parts of the game, kept Kalikmanis confused or at least uncomfortable back there. What did you think on the game plan?
Mike, for the first time in a long time, I saw different coverages. I saw a good man-to-man defense. I saw them bring more pressure up front. You saw Gabe be able to not be blocked one-on-one, because that's kind of tough to do, which I thought was impressive. The pressure was coming from from both sides of the field. That's what you need to do. If they want to be competitive moving forward, that's what they're going to have to do. And not stay stagnant, because when you go back to Washington, and yes, Washington is in the past, it was just so comfortable for them. It was so easy for them to just sit back there and to just make passes. Today, it was not easy at all, for Ethan, I don't know how to say his last name, I'm not going to butcher it, Kalikmanis. They made it tough for him. I mean, he had some good throws, don't get me wrong, because he did throw for 253 yards, but the different looks, different schemes, because what that does, it gives defensives tough. It gives the quarterback not enough time to make passes down the field. And then also, if you can get pressure up front, it gives the backfield, the secondary guys, enough time to cover, to go one-on-one. They have their hands on a lot of passes that they deflected. When was the last time we've seen some of those? So that part of it is really, really good to see. I just want to see it moving forward. I do know there's been heat from everywhere. People can deny it all they want. There's been heat coming from every direction about how the defense has been looking. And, it's not just, Mike and I talking. I'm talking – I've listened to tons of podcasts and radio stations myself, and I've heard a lot of it. So, but just, moving forward, you got to look to get better. And I will say this, and this is not a knock against the players that are there. Mike and I have always talked about it kind of differently. You got to keep the talent and you got to upgrade the talent. Not that the talent's bad, but you want some outstanding speed back there. You were lucky with Devin Weatherspoon, who was not a highly ranked kid who eventually became a star, but you can't define your program and hoping that your program is going to find Devin Weatherspoons every year, because that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. And what a great find he was for Illinois, and been a nice ambassador for the team. And the interesting thing is we're seeing that Illinois is going to be playing Maryland. Maryland most likely is going to be coming off of a loss to Indiana. Yet in the first quarter, they are now up 3-0 and have just caused all sorts of havoc on Indiana's first drive. So, you get into these situations, these are college kids, and you just don't know how the heck they're going to play. And most likely, I think you'll see Indiana obviously blow them out. But, again, college kids. I'll tell you what, a 99-yard drive, we don't get to see those very much in any football game. It was Altmaier was clicking on all cylinders. What did you think about the performance of the senior quarterback and a guy that, to be honest with you, will really write himself into the record books? Probably won't pass up Kurt Kittner, but may pass up everybody who's not named Kittner in a lot of categories.
Illinois fans, you're lucky. You have no idea how lucky you are that Luke Altmaier is built differently. He could have left. Most people are surprised that he stayed. There were so many reasons that he stayed. One of them, he's a loyal kid, or yes, a young man to a fault. There's some people outside of Illinois football, I'm not talking a girl, that were really that's good to him, that's in his ear a lot, that's healthy for him. The fact that Coach Bielema never lied to him, those are all reasons that he came back, because he could have left and gone somewhere else. So, you have one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's a 3-year starter for Illinois. When was the last time that's happened? I mean, we've talked about it. I don't remember top of my head. But that's just say a lot about the type of quarterback he is. I just feel comfortable with him. I mean, I feel comfortable when he drops back to throw the ball. Today was the first day I saw him get as many passes deflected. The interception, and you mentioned most of his interceptions come from balls being tipped, but they're still interceptions. The Washington game, I'm going to wash away the Washington game, because, like I said on post-game show, they knew Illinois was throwing the football. So it's a little bit easier to, and you knew who the ball was going to. I'm just impressed with him, his demeanor, and he's not sulking. He has said multiple times, I'm not stealing anybody's thunder, that he wants to leave this program, leave a legacy to where the reason why Illinois football is successful is because he had a big part in it, because they're breaking records all for the last 2 years that they're breaking records, and he's a big part of that. You mentioned about himself, but the team as well. There's not a team in the Big Ten, not one team in this Big Ten that he couldn't be the starting quarterback for. If that should tell you how good he is, and that includes Indiana and Ohio State.
Yeah, no, I agree. I get to use our saying. I made a shirt. The Illini Guys 316 says the Illinois Fighting Illini just whip your ass. And so that's what we did. The Illini did to Rutgers today. So we're looking forward to being able to use that a few more times here this season, Ked. We got a few games left, and I'll be sending you a shirt. So we'll make sure that it's a takeoff on the Austin 316 shirts that used to be in all over the country when Steve Austin was wrestling. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what, this is so cool to go back in time and think about all those years that you go into November and Illinois is 2-7.
No, you know what we think about?
6.
We're talking is a basketball season.
Exactly.
That's what we say all the time, Mike.
Yep. And when we started Illini Guys, Lovey was here, and we didn't think we were going to have to cover football that much because we figured Lovey wouldn't. That Josh wouldn't fire him and eat any of that money. And I'm happy to say that Josh got the job done by bringing in, such a talented coach in Brett Bielema. And looking at the change that he's done, the biggest difference I would say, people look at Signetti now and they say, oh, look how quick Indiana's passed us up. Well, Signetti's a really good coach as well, and he's also got a lot of dollars. So let's hope that some of the Illinois computer billionaires decide they want to help out as well. Talk about the defensive backfield. The only thing I'm sorry, you talked about the running backs. The only thing I was thinking in this game was that Hank Beatty got, he got targeted 4 times, 4 catches for 40 yards. I just think sometimes maybe you don't want to kill a kid because he's not huge, but I'd like to see maybe when it comes down to it, I'd like to see Hank Beatty get the ball a little more often. I don't know how you feel about that.
I do, and this is really selfish to say. I want to see him get the ball more for himself and the team, but I also want him to win some postseason awards. I want to see Illinois players, because Luke Allmeyer, as good as he is, he's not going to make first or second team All Big Ten. He's just not. You know who's going to be on the list. And so Hank Beatty is our one guy that we're holding our hat to. I don't know off the top of my head if he was averaging close to 80 yards a game receiving today. And today he only had 40. Hudson Clement finally showed up, who led the team with 84 yards. But I really I'm a big Hank Beatty fan. I want to see him continue to be one of the top receivers in the country. Mike, we were talking about records. There's a statistic that the Illini Stats has put out. I don't know if you've seen it or not. They have their most wins over a 4-year period in Illinois history. Today, that puts this group, if I see it, at 29. And, number 29, and it's been since 1901 and 04, which was just like yesterday for you and I when they won 35 and 33. And, so this group is making some noise and they're making history. So it's a good situation. And I saw a statistic with Brett Bielema's overall record at Illinois football. I mean, it's in a good place. And I know we're not in the business of promoting people to donate money. You and I are big on that because it's not our money. I really want to see Illinois have a chance to go out and compete with some of the best players. I saw today, and no one's going to agree with me on this, and Henry dialed up his best defense, and he didn't do it with great players. Give him some talent back there. They rushed 4 and 5 guys today, Mike. It was different, totally different today.
Yeah, I agree. And it is, something that you see. I mean, Illinois doesn't have the greatest football tradition, unfortunately. They've been good occasionally, but not good consistently. And yet they're getting their opportunity now to break through and make that difference. And I just gotta look at this and say, this is what people wanted. And you're looking at with 3 games to go and possibly 4, Illinois has, they've got 16 wins over this 2-year period. And so you're actually 2 games away from the most successful two-year winning wins in the history of the program. So that is a really, really important thing. I know, like I said, Maryland's given Indiana all they want early in the game. But Illinois certainly has the opportunity to go out there and play well. And I guess, the key thing now is, Ked, is how does this team beat the teams they're supposed to beat?
Illinois, I'll tell you what, if Illinois wants to beat the teams they're supposed to beat, I don't think Maryland is going to be an easy game. The one thing they didn't do well today, they need interception. They need to take the ball away. They need some excitement from special teams. Those are give me points. When team get down there on your 40-yard line, you want to be able to get a turnover. Yeah, you want to get stops, and they're able to stop Rutgers 37% of the time on third downs today. But get those turnovers. I know they said, I think it was the Duke game earlier in the year, they saw on film that you punch the ball away, they would turn the ball over. Find out what Maryland does turn the ball over. Find out what Wisconsin and Northwestern's doing to turn the ball over. You need some of those because Illinois got tips today. I mean, they'll get tips, but the ball somehow falls on the ground. They're not getting those, what I call in basketball, 50-50 balls. I think they need some of that if they want to continue to be good and not to make a game close. Somebody's going to make a game close. And I said I'm not going to renege on it. It may be Maryland, but I said it was going to be Wisconsin because Brett from Wisconsin. I think there's some extra motivation there. But they're going to have to find ways to pick the ball off and then just also be able to run it. Because if they can run the football effectively, they're hard to stop offensively because Barry Lunny will make you pay some way or another by if you try to take one thing away from him, which is what you saw with Gartmeyer today. They saw him film the Rutgers. They don't tackle well on the outside. They went outside, and Luke ran outside.
Yeah, now I see that. I'm not certain I agree that it takes national television humiliation, but I do think what you see in many times is when you get on the national TV games, that is when you can see, hey, how much money are you spending versus the other teams, and I think that's a big part of it. And then you do have to coach over your head, sometimes, and that's where Illinois does sometimes struggle, especially on a national basis. You look at like, for example, comparing the roster costs, particularly Ohio State, but and the other thing I think that it's very interesting, but the finding the speed is so important. I can't think of a single sport. I mean, even as an average player, the guys who killed me were the guys who you had to give them so much space because they could cook you if you got too close and just go around you and leave you in the dust, and when you have to give a player 3 or 4 feet, in basketball, or you got to give them 7 yards off the line of scrimmage in football, you've kind of almost lost the play by that point. And I know, Ked, you're looking at some of the best athletes out there. You look at a guy like Terrence Shannon Jr., what he can do physically, by moving. And I'm not even talking about his size and strength, but just the speed with which he moves. And Illinois needs to find more of that. And it's a very a hard thing to find. And the guys who are paying more tend to get more of it. People
don't understand. The game has changed. It's evolved. Back in the day, if you look at some of the old footage, like I'll use a guy like David Williams, who I thought we know personally and was a stud. He was outstanding back in the day. But today he would be very average from a speed standpoint. The speed of the game is remarkably different. If you're an Illinois fan, obviously, because you're listening to this show, you think guys are great and they're good college football players. But to get to the league at the next level, you have to be outstanding quick. The linemen are just as fast today. Back in the day, they looked like I do. And you can't do that anymore. Those days are done. They can all run, they can jump, they're athletic. It doesn't matter, left guard, right guard, it doesn't matter. Those kids today, these athletes today are a lot better. And that's what Illinois needs to get. And going off that statement from William, I don't know if it's an embarrassment because it was on national TV. I think these coaches are competitive too. People need to understand that we can sit here and, be analysts and people can voice their opinions on social media. If you don't think the coaches see what we see, you're kidding yourself. I don't know what the reason was why they didn't do this before with the defense. I have been told, and I'm the one guy who I'm not criticizing players, but I also like to hold them accountable. I was told a lot of the players were missing assignments. They were, so then the coaches were like, what are we doing? What can we do to make sure that they understand? Because they see it, So, and I don't know if it's because it's national TV. As long as Illinois, I think, has Josh Whitman leading the charge, because I heard Brett Underwood say last week, Josh is always ahead of the game. There is money out there. If you guys think I'm kidding, and you Google some of the richest millionaire and billionaires that are alumni from University of Illinois, you're going to be surprised how long that list is. They need to, and I think Brett is turning the corner, making Illinois more appeal, sexy, as Brett Underwood calls it. I think you'll be able to do that because right now, Illinois is no different than anybody else. They have nice facilities. They have good coaching, but everybody has NIL dollars. It has to be something different that you have to sell. Maybe Brett's selling his NFL dream. Who knows? But the recruiting is good. It's way better than what it has been in the past. Trust me, I know. Now they look like Big Ten players, but now you have to go out there. You have to get elite speed. You have to go head-to-head against Ohio State or Michigan or Oregon to get a defensive back. Those are the types of things. You need that offensive lineman. You need 2 or 3 Gabe Yakuses. If you want to take the next step and play in the college playoffs, that's what you need. I've said it before, and people didn't like this. It would have been great for Illinois to get to the college playoffs from a marketing standpoint and all of it. But the game itself, it concerned me because I know they don't have the talent that some of the other schools do right now overall. Sure, they have some talented players, but all 11 guys on the field at the same time, offense and defense, I can't say that.
No, and I think that's the issue. As people who've listened to our broadcast know, I bring it up quite often. The big issue is how do you get to the point where you can really evaluate a coach? Because if Ked brings a team to town and we're playing, doesn't matter what sport it is, but he's got $40 million worth of athletes, and I'm going to play him with $9 million worth of athletes. I might be a better coach than Ked, but it's only going to be one game in 50 that we see that, because you got to have Ked's talent playing at a horrible level, Ked coaching at a horrible level, and my talent and my players, all of my talent and my coaching have to play perfectly to take that gap up. So that's why you see when I look at, like, when people talk about, like, I've seen during all these coaching things, guys that are pretty respected writers across the country saying, hey, the best coaches in football are, landing out in Oregon, Ryan Day and Kirby Smart. And they're very good coaches. Let's be clear. They are very good coaches. But how do you know that? Because how would Dan Lanning do if he was here at Illinois with $5 to $9 million of a roster, and Brett Bielema was there with a $30 to $40 million roster? I don't know. Ryan Day. If Ryan Day was the head coach of Illinois, I can tell you right now, he would be nowhere near what Brett Bielema has built, because Ryan Day's had the best roster in college football for 6 of the last 7 years and has one title to show for it. And Kirby Smart, he's a fantastic, coach over the years, learned from, Saban the best. But if he was spending a third of what he is right now, would he be atop the SEC? Again, not throwing rocks at these guys, but I wish from a transparency standpoint, we would see something like the number 1 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes with a $39.5 million payroll, or playing the number 23 USC Trojans with a $15.9 million payroll. Just making those numbers up. But it would tell us what coach is getting the most out of their money. I don't know how you feel about that, Kev, but to me, it's hard to really fully rate those coaches because some guys are in such a great position compared to their peers.
Mike, it's people don't want to hear it. And I'm sorry, then you can mute this part of it. It's reality. It is, Ohio State is a great program. Traditionally, they're a good program. Now you can add money to, and make that a factor. It's easy for them. It really and truly is. I just wish people would understand if Illinois had that kind of situation, and maybe they will. I just mentioned it's slowly starting to change. But when you have that kind of budget and that kind of money, why would you not? Some players just want the money because they know. If you want to play football, here's my philosophy. I've always told my kids this. My old high school coach used to tell us this, and a lot of people may not like it. Go to a place where you can play. I would never want to go to Ohio State if I'm a 4 or 5 star recruit and have to sit for 4 years before I play. I wouldn't want that. I can tell you right now, Illinois has a ton of football players that's in the 2026 class that have told me they could have went to Oregon, they could have went to Ohio State. They're not sitting. So why do that? And if you have the money to go get some of these kids, you are going to be on an even playing field. Because at the end of the day, whether we like this or not, college athletics are not going backwards. They're not. Hell, they're even in basketball. They're bringing guys down from the G League, which makes me want to throw up in this microphone. Having said that, if you want to compete, you got a good coach. You have to do what everybody else is doing. Indiana is doing it. And I can't even believe I'm sitting here saying that on the podcast. The thought of Indiana football with a bigger budget and what they're doing, I don't like that. But if Illinois doesn't step up, then you're going to be ninth, you're going to be 10th and 12th in the Big Ten again. You have a great fan base. Brett Bielema, they've sold out every game this year because the talent's there. I've always said this. I don't care what sport it is. If you win long enough, the fans will come. That's just who they are. I mean, every program can't say that. So I do think money's an issue. I do think some kids, they do talk that. I can tell you this. There's basketball recruits that I know that I've talked to. I know this is a football show that won't even entertain your school unless they know how much money they're going to get up front. They won't even entertain it. They've said it to me. I've heard it before, and so football's got to be no different. So when you see a kid, like there was a kid today, I'm not saying this is the case today, Alex Costanza, a kid that Illinois really, really wanted.
Yeah,
I'm not saying the money became an issue. Something had to be in play. You're going to pick Georgetown over Illinois? Come on, people, wake up.
Yeah, I think that's right. Speaking, though, of, waking up, one of the things that I wanted to talk a little bit about is Delete Me. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everybody vulnerable. Now, what do these data brokers do? Well, they find your name, your contact information, social security number, home address, even information about your family members, and it can all be compiled by data brokers, and then they sell it online. Now, unfortunately, if you might know somebody who's been a victim of identity theft, harassment, doxing. If you haven't, you probably know somebody who has, and guess what? Delete Me can help. Take control of your data, keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to join deleteme.com/HIT and use promo code HIT at checkout. It's the only way to get 20% off is to go to join deleteme.com/HIT and enter code HIT at checkout. That's join deleteme.com/HIT, code HIT. Thanks so much for the Delete Me for supporting us. Ked, I know that it's basically, a lot of stuff that is important for people out there. So take a look at Delete Me.
Mike, can I make a comment?
Yep.
You highlighted it. Okay, William, let me tell you why I do it. Mike can speak for himself. I do it because my job is recruiting. Let me give you a little bit of history with it. That means I will talk to a kid. I will see a kid, and they bring it up to me. They will say to me, Illinois has lost football players because it is an issue. So I'm sorry you don't like to hear it. I'm sorry. It's a fact of reality. Kids, I'm not going to throw a kid under a bus. They have said it. Brett Bielema it was 2 years ago. He was really mad. They lost a player that they knew was coming. And then somebody came in and just threw a bunch of money to this kid, and he went to a SEC school. Kudos for the kid doing it. So this isn't an issue where we're pretending that it doesn't happen. I'm sorry that we're talking about it on the show. But if you want to take the next step, you don't need – the coaching is there. They've proven that they can coach. But the donor money does matter because everybody else is doing it. When you want to stay in the top 5 or 6 of the Big Ten, how do you expect to do that? How do you expect to go to when you know you're going to go to Oregon next year, or when you know you're going to play Ohio State on the road, or Michigan? It's different because let's face it, Ohio State, Oregon, and Michigan, they have strong traditions. Illinois doesn't have that. So they're behind the A ball to begin with. So you're asking a coach like Brett Bielema to go compete for national titles with less talent. That's why. So if the kids in the NIL, the NCAA didn't make it an issue, I would never say anything. But the fact of the matter is, when a kid will say to me, well, you know what? The facilities are better here at Ohio State. They have more money. There's more fan support. That happens. I'm telling you. I've done this for over 20 years. Kids will say to me, you know, hell, you can ask former football players. They're in all the facilities that are there. You know, the women's and men's basketball programs have recruits that leave that building talking about the urban complex, how nice it is. So it does matter. And it's easy for me to talk about it. Again, I'm not going to speak for Mike because it's not my money. But it does drive college athletics now.
Yeah, look, the fact of the matter is we're going to be pretty much straight shooters on stuff. You know, the funniest thing is I was talking to an Ohio State media member about the difference in the football rosters, and the media guy's like, well, I don't think it makes any difference at all. And I looked at him, I'm like, you got to be absolutely crazy. So if you're going to go out and you've got $400,000 to spend, there's no difference between spending it on a Lamborghini or a Chevy Equinox. I mean, come on, there's a difference there, and ultimately that's where you run into it. And you know what? And if you read the Wall Street Journal article on that cabal that Duke has that puts together their basketball recruiting, they spend a hell of a lot more money than Illinois does. So I mean, again, all you're doing is I know you think you're like bringing up points. You're just making our case for us. So the bottom line is there's this mythology around college sports. Like, let me give you one, that John Wooden's pyramid of values. But go ahead and take a look. Go ahead and go into the wiki. Take a look at John Wooden's record by year as a head coach. Then find out the year Sam Gilbert started to hang around the UCLA basketball program, and take a look at John Wooden's record. Of course, he didn't know anything about it. Still has his pyramid of values. But basically, kids from, let's say, New York City were going to go play basketball at UCLA, having never been on an airplane because they were great basketball players. And and to their benefit, the UCLA guys won't talk about it, but Sam Gilbert bankrolled that program. So the bottom line is, and Illinois lost to Loyola, and that's, if you listened to the podcast, I said that the lesser team can win, but their coach has to be perfect. Their players got to play really well. The higher ranked team doesn't play up to their capabilities, and maybe their coach has a bad night. So yeah, you're going to get some variance. You're going to get upsets. They're always going to happen. But if you want to win, take a look at Ohio State's record in the last 70 years. I'm not blaming them for anything. It would be easier for me to be an Ohio State fan. Since 1950, they've had 5 losing seasons. Why is that? Because they've hired the guys who do what it takes to win. They've got boosters who do what it takes to win. Take a look at the story about how the Ohio State Stadium was built 100 years ago. They've always had boosters who figure out, hey, we got to do this to help the program get better. There's nothing wrong with it. But again, they've built that for 70 years, and if you can go there as a player and it's perceived as a better place to get you to the NFL, and they don't put that money in their basketball program, which is why the Ohio State basketball program doesn't compare to the football program. It is what it is, and it's frustrating, but nobody wants to talk about John Wooden. It's just, he has his pyramid of values. They don't talk about Sam Gilbert. Or you take a look, read some of the stories about when Illinois got put on probation for the slush fund for paying $4 for a pizza for a kid. Meanwhile, Bear Bryant's handing out cars like they're trick or treat candy. So it is what it is, and you there's always going to be money, people. Anytime there's a chance to win and there's dollars involved, somebody's going to throw dollars in to make dollars later on. So getting back to
Mike, can I make one comment, please?
Yep, go right ahead.
This is traditionally the stuff that we put on our message boards, but I'm going to throw this out there because, and this is the last comment I'm going to make on it. We're talking about why money matters and why we're talking about it. I wanted to find out why Illinois lost to Constanza. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to say the amount, but Mike, I'm going to show it to you. It was money. It was strictly money. And in about 15 seconds, Mike, you're going to get that text and understand. So I want people to understand it does matter. We're not just sitting here saying this because we're bored. It was strictly money. And that same thing goes to football.
Well, but this is everywhere. I mean, I'm sure that if somebody wants a player bad enough and you've got somebody with deep enough pockets, I'm sure Ohio State gets outbid by, maybe they get outbid by somebody down south for a player. It happens to everybody. It just depends if you have $35 million to spend and another team has $10 million to spend, the team with $35 million is going to get outbid many less times than the team with $9 million. That's all it is saying. And I do think the other thing that's realistic is it'd be great if you could just do a real cap. You could say, okay, you know what? Every team if you can raise up to X million dollars, and if you can raise that much, you can't raise any more. But people will still cheat. It's not like if everybody could get a certain number, it's not like Ohio State and Georgia would be like, oh, shucky darns, there's a 5-star defensive tackle in Chicago. I guess he's going to University of Illinois because we're out of money. That's just not the way it works. But anyway, the Illinois team has done phenomenal, and Brett Bielema's done it on less of a budget than some of his peers. That's why I have such respect for Brett Bielema. You can say what you want. Is he perfect? No human being is, but he's doing it on a much lesser budget. It gives me a modicum of respect. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, you have guys like, you have guys who win national titles. Kirby Smart's won a couple of them, and that's really hard to do, even if you have the best team. So, Ryan Day, you tip your hat to him because, hey, that's excellent. Dan Lanning hasn't been able to do that, even though he's got a lot of money spent. So it's just different set of challenges, and you just have less of a margin for error when your budget is that much lower than your peers. You just can't make as many mistakes. The New York Yankees have how many World Series, and the Kansas City Royals have a much less. And part of it is because the Royals don't spend as much money. So the years that it all comes together for them there are many fewer years than what you would see in New York because they spend more money. So getting back to this game, the other thing I think that we talked about about the defense. Offensively, my biggest concern is I think, the running backs need to break free. We want Altmaier not to get hit as much. So then that puts you into a final thing of the offensive line has to play better. I thought they played better today, but they need to continue to elevate their game as it goes on.
Well, Mike, I'm going to tell you, sorry, technical difficulties. My computer's freezing. Mike, they're getting old, buddy. But anyway, the offensive line has been an issue. And what stinks about it, we've talked about this a lot, during the preseason, what you expected of them. Truthfully, I know you said you weren't disappointed. Out of all the teams today, other than special teams didn't do anything to stand out. But truthfully, for me, I have to give them a D- effort today. There's no way that those holes, as old as they are, the running backs, it's just not easy for them. And I don't know what the answer is. I did hear Bart Miller talk today on one of the pregame shows, but it's not this. It's just not consistent. I'll put it that way. It's not consistent enough for me.
Yeah, and it is funny because you'll see really good plays, and that goes the difference. I guess like you said, straight up consistency. Because you'll see Brandon Henderson wipe somebody out, and then the next play get beat right on his gap, and you're like, wow, what happened there?
Well, they have to either figure that out and there's not very many games left, and it's been somewhat of a disappointment. We could talk about the overall defense, but if you look at the whole team with the most experience coming back and what they were supposed to do, that is the group that I think let the team down. I'm not being negative toward the players. I hope that doesn't sound that way, but they just, you know what? They haven't been consistent enough. How about that?
Yeah, it seems like the right side of the line has been good, but up and down. And then the left side of the line, I think, has probably been a little more consistent than the right side of the line. And I do think that's where Illinois has to figure out, how do you sell the Brett Bielema experience? Because I think now that Saban's out of the college ranks, I believe Brett Bielema is the number one coach in getting offensive linemen into the NFL. And somehow, that's got to be used in the selling process. But talking to somebody about their chances in the NFL versus, today, they're going to look at today. The check clears today is also a factor in that. You've got to get them to think more about long term and what Brett Bielema has done for a multitude of players. And I do think today the defensive line played much better as well, which I've been waiting for. And so overall, it was a strong performance for the Illini against a team that if the Illini hadn't played better, this team could have made this a very ugly loss. And you can imagine if Illinois all of a sudden was 5-4, and then all of a sudden you're worried about, well, wait a minute, we just got to get bowl eligible, and you start doing all these doomsday scenarios when you start losing your confidence in yourself.
Mike, they got off the field. I don't want to say the defense won the game for them, but it gave them a much better chance. Let's just put it that way. They looked a lot better today, and it looked like a team effort. It wasn't just the offense carrying the defense. What I really want to see, and I mentioned this about 20 minutes ago, do it again next week. Don't make it easy. I think, and that's the biggest thing that I got from a lot of people, make it uncomfortable for them. I remember one of my coach in college said to me, how do you feel when people get into you and make it uncomfortable? What does that feel like? And you don't like it. So return the favor. Do it to them. If you don't like somebody pressuring you and getting into your face and all in your space or in your bubble, then you do the same thing. So that's kind of the way I would do, because I just, out of all the games, the Washington game, it literally looked like they were just rushing. I know it's impossible. One guy.
Yeah.
Just one person. I mean, he had all the time in the world to throw the football. You can't do that. And especially, and I know, he's a good running back, a good running quarterback, but gee, when at Christmas, you can't do that.
Yeah. And yeah, I look at it as Starnes, I understood it. I used that to, go into a speech. But yeah, the guys on top spending the much money. I mean, it's got to be a fun experience, every year, for the last 70 years, Ohio State, except for 5 seasons, has pretty much been at the top of it. And except for eras of the John Cooper era, they were always, somewhere in the mix for the Big Ten champion and the national champion. That would be fun. I mean, it's kind of like when I grew up as a Cowboy fan, they used to be at the top of the NFC every year and a threat to go to the Super Bowl. Now they're just a threat for us Cowboy fans to cry all over somebody's shirt when they tease us about how bad the team is. So there you are. I mean, it's, Ohio State's maintained it. Some teams have just been up there forever. Ohio State, Notre Dame, Alabama, Oklahoma, USC to a lesser extent, but there's just some that have stayed and retained that talent for a long time. That's why I say they're doing the things necessary to win. I'm not necessarily knocking them. I'm probably more jealous than anything else.
Mike, I have a statistic, if you don't mind, real quick.
Yeah,
I just found this, and I have to give credit to where I found it, and I found this on 247 Sports. They have the top 25 NIL budgets. Coming in at number 25 is your Fighting Illini. I'm going to just do Big Ten schools. 21, the Iowa Hawkeyes, $9.6 million. The Oregon Ducks, $10.6 million. Seemed to thought that was kind of low. We have Michigan State. How is that possible? 13 million. Indiana, 13.6 million. Penn State, 13.7 million. Let's see here. Anybody else from the Big Ten that we're missing? Sorry. Michigan Wolverines, 16.3 million. And the last team, I know it's going to probably be Ohio State and the Big Ten, $20.2 million. That's kind of what we're talking about. Sorry about that.
Yeah. And again, the numbers are interesting, and it's hard to get an exact number. And that's the part I said about transparency that I would love to see, where you could actually compare who's spending what, which allows you to judge it allows you to judge, what is going on from a standpoint of, how committed your team is and how effective they are at spending your dollars, and I even did a little bit of and this is just something that's why if people ask me, why are you so pro Brett Bielema? Well, the reason I'm pro Brett Bielema is because what he's done to help the team. So let me get let me share something here. I'm going to play around a little bit with the technology and see if I can get this to work. So if we get lucky here, Ken, we can take a look at this.
Okay.
It's coming. So let's see if we can get this to work. It is, there we are.
There we go.
So if you take a look at this, here is, now this was from a year ago. So it's, so you have seasons with 4-0 starts, because we're just talking about that. Since 1951, at the time, Illinois had 2024, Illinois had 3, whereas Ohio State had 33 years that they started off 4-0. And then years with losing records since 1951, there were 4. And then Illinois had 46. And then seasons with less than 3 wins. It's never happened at Ohio State. Illinois had 15 times just since 51. So again, and I've got another chart which isn't in front of me right now that I've just got that has basically number of 12 win season, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10 win seasons, and then and compared the two. So it's just an idea. It's a tough world, and Ohio State's on top, and they've earned it by doing the right things over decades. And so finally now, Kat, as we kind of wrap this up, where do you see the Illini program going? They're gonna have Maryland coming in next week. Maryland's going to be coming off of what I think will end up being a very physical game against Indiana. And you're going to have a guy who needs to get a win. How do you see that game shaping up?
I watched Maryland earlier in the year. Going into the season, they weren't a concern for me. Now I am. You have a former coach there who coached at Illinois before. Their backs, everybody, if you think about it, Mike, everybody's backs against the wall this late in the season. I mean, everybody's either fighting for a job, fighting for that bowl game. You got 2 coaches or 3 coaches that you're going to face right in a row in Maryland and Wisconsin and Northwestern, all fighting to try to win games for different reasons. Luckily, and I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it kind of does. Two of the 3 are at home, so Maryland is athletic enough, and they can put some points on the board. Again, I watched them play early in the year. I don't have the Indiana game on in front of me, but I will watch it later throughout the week because I always try to watch the Illinois' next opponent a couple times. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think they're athletic. I think the defense has to show up again, whatever that case may be, and find out what they don't do well. And you have to exploit that. There's enough game footage out there, game tape out there now on every team to find out what they don't do well. And every team has that except for a few.
Yep. All right, Ked. Well, thanks for coming on here. We got Matt Stevens, who's just come up from the bowels of Geese Memorial Stadium, interviewing players and seeing what's going on. Matt, I thought Illinois' defense definitely played well against a Rutgers offense that, it may not be quite Washington's octane, but statistically has played very well this year. And Illinois held them to, 312 yards, but 146 of those were in the fourth quarter when the game was not in session. So I know this sounds like a dumb question, but what was the mood down there?
You know who also thought the defense played really well? The head coach thought the defense played really, really well. And I made a joke when I was on the sidelines with 5 minutes to go, and the game was obviously not in doubt. I leaned over to a colleague of mine and I said, "You know what? I'll give Brett Bielema everything in my wallet today if he walks in there and says the game ball went to Aaron Henry. I thought they played really, really well, and I know there was a lot written, and none of it was true. And you guys don't know what we do in our building. I've been doing this for 17 years, and I know my team better than anybody in this building, currently in this room. So I don't want to hear it anymore." And up until I don't want to hear it anymore, he did every bit of that. So the head coach literally said, I think the biggest problem was from a management standpoint, Aaron Henry didn't know that I had full confidence in him. And he needed to be told that I have full confidence in him and I needed to help him. And I wasn't doing that as a manager. So we're going to start doing that. And so I think for all the people that want Aaron Henry to get fired, I mean, the head coach has gone out of his way to literally say, if we help Aaron Henry out and we play and execute, the 11 guys execute, it's not the calls, it's not the guy that's calling it, it's not the guy that's scheming it up. Because I did part of that this week, which is kind of what Brett Bielema said. I did a lot of the scheming it up this week. It's not about that. It's about going out and playing free and executing and playing with confidence. And I thought, especially out on the perimeter today, Illinois did that against one of the most productive passing offenses in the Big Ten. And they had 8 pass deflections and had a lot of success out on the perimeter. So, that fed into Gabe Yakus being able to get pressures and sacks, the defensive line being able to, contain the Rutgers run game. And from that standpoint, really, I mean, Rutgers got 6 points until it was, So, I mean, they really kept him out of the end zone for 3. They did keep him out of the end zone for 3 quarters. And so, from that standpoint, I think the defense had a real big bounce back weekend and one they really, really needed. And their head coach kind of wanted to wag his finger at everybody and go, "Hey, I know what I'm doing here. And you don't know what I know. Okay. And so leave me alone and back off." And I think he knew that he had earned some capital today to be able to do the whole leave me alone and back off thing. And so we go into these last 3 games with the idea that Illinois can really feel like that they're the decided favorite in all 3 of those games. And really, if they execute on both sides of the ball like they did today, they should comfortably win just like they did today.
Right. Because this was a different feel. And Kalikmanis wasn't comfortable back there all day long. Nope. And he reminded me more of him
at Minnesota.
From Minnesota, yeah, because he was starting to do those errant passes where you miss a 3-yard out by 7 yards.
Sure.
So I got to give Illinois credit for that. I also thought the pass rush was much better coming up the middle, which didn't allow him to step forward. Which anybody just go out in your yard, get a football, and try to throw it without stepping forward.
Mike, I said that on the Sports Spectacular this week, is that they're about to play four quarterbacks now that aren't nearly as mobile as the quarterbacks that they saw in September and October. And I think that makes a huge difference. I think it makes a huge difference that you can get vertical up the field with your Angelo McCullums and your Kurt Neals. First pass, I think the first quarterback pressure came from Kurt Neal up the middle as the nose tackle today. So when you can get when you can feel like you can be confident to get your guys vertical up the field and you don't have to worry about that 11th guy in the run game, then that allows you the opportunity to get more aggressive up front on defense, even when you don't have Dylan Rosiak today. And you don't have Leon Lowry today. So you're missing 2 starters on your defense, and you basically sit there and say, well, on third down, we can still pin our ears back and play man and bring pressure. And I don't feel like they felt that. I mean, I know they didn't feel that way in Seattle. I know they didn't feel that way in Bloomington. And I know they didn't feel that way against Jordan Miava when Southern Cal came here. So they're about to play some quarterbacks now that are with the way that Illinois recruits its defensive players and the way that they scheme it up on defense is going to have a decided advantage because of the way they like to play. And I think that that's going to be a huge advantage because Rutgers today knew their quarterback wasn't nearly as mobile as, let's just say, Brett Bielema wanted to make him out to be on Monday. And then, coming out of the bye week, that's this coming week, with Maryland, Wisconsin, and Northwestern don't nearly have the athletes at quarterback that they've seen before this year. So I think you're seeing a defense that's just executing better. You also heard from defensive players that they took it personally, what was going on outside their building and what was being talked about outside their building. And you could see that today, which was, guys like Juice Clark and guys like Torrey Cox and guys like Matt Bailey kind of playing with a little bit more juice today because their guy is in the crosshairs, at least publicly and on message boards like ours. And they took that personally, not to do the Jordan meme, but they kind of took that personally. And Matt Bailey takes it personally because that's the guy that's leading his position group in Aaron Henry. So, I think this was a game where I think, at least on the defensive side of the ball, everybody kind of looks at how they were able to perform today and just kind of look at everybody outside their building and just go, calm down, everybody. Like, we got this. And I think that was a big attitude today. I mean, that they had to generate their own energy, Mike, for an 11 a.m. kick. And they did that by basically saying, I don't care that we're at home. It's us against the world because everybody thinks that we stink. So we might as well just kind of band together because we're the only ones that have any confidence, in the Illini defense right now. So it's all on us. And that's kind of the way they played today, is a little bit of, who the hell cares? We're the only ones that, the way that we execute is how we're going to get evaluated. It's not going to be about, how hard we played or what kind of effort we showed. We've got to play efficiently, and we've got to do exactly what our coaches are telling us to do. And I thought they did a much better job of that on Saturday or today.
Yeah, it looked like a different team.
Just looked like a more confident team, right? Like, I mean, just confidence-wise, I thought it was just completely different.
Yeah. The only thing that I was kind of concerned by myself, being, not a football coach.
Sure.
I was hoping to see the running backs generate more of the yards and be more effective on a per carry basis. I'm not saying I expected Illinois to run for 350 yards,
right,
but I'm saying I would have liked to have seen, let's say, 12 carries to, each of the backs and 5 yards a carry or 4.5, something like that. You look at, I think they came out with maybe, I think I had the stat earlier. I don't know if I still have it up, but it was, I don't know, something like 3.7 yards a carry out of the tailback position. Other than that, I don't know that to me, that was the one in the back of my mind. I think, I'd like to see that get better.
I thought you saw some good stuff out of Lafrey in the first half. I mean, they did some really good stuff. I thought Barry Lunny kind of almost gave away the plan on Monday, which was when he said, hey guys, and I said it in our film review, like out of the Seattle game, where Barry on Monday comes to us and says, yeah, I think I want to get Luke more involved in the run game. And I think that's going to really open things up for us. They did it in Seattle and they did it this week, clearly. Yeah. And I think that that dissipates, Rutgers being able to load the box on Aiden Loffrey or Caden Fagan or Khalil Valentine. Got to also remember, Mike, that a lot of that yards per carry is happening in the fourth quarter when Illinois kind of just wants to hold the football and do the 4-minute drill and do the 4-minute drill thing. Right. So, but I thought they did some really cool stuff, like on draws and getting out on the perimeter with Aiden Loffrey, and getting him going that way. I and Brett said it today. I thought Barry was completely in his bag today. Like, I really thought he did a really good job.
Oh yeah, no, I can't argue. I mean,
if you want somebody, it's funny. I got to credit Zeno on this one, because he literally tapped me on the shoulder after like the trick play that Luke runs in, and he goes, "Somebody ran that last week." And I'm going to give a shout out, because I literally went to at Dan Casey, the football X's and O's genius, Coach Dan Casey's Twitter page.
Yeah.
And I started scrolling, and I'm like, somebody ran this, and Dan had to have like retweeted it. And like, sure enough, last week against Missouri, I think it was, Alabama ran that play. Okay. And they ran it, and Luke, and I called Luke on it, and I said, I'm pretty sure Alabama ran that play last week. And he goes, yeah, they sure did. And because the play is actually designed for Luke to hit Tanner Arkin.
Right. And he didn't have to.
Right. Because Ty Simpson had to throw it in, because Ty Simpson's not as good an athlete as Luke is. He had to throw it in on that touchdown pass that they had last week in Tuscaloosa. And Luke looked at me and he goes, "It's the exact same play. We stole it from him." And it wasn't in our book until Thursday, when Barry was like, "Hey, I want to throw this in the walkthrough, and we're going to do it." And he goes, "I'm going to have." And then Luke, who went to the Manning Academy this year in Louisiana with Ty Simpson, I think Ty was his roommate, but I'm not entirely sure about that. I could be wrong. He goes, "I'm going to have to tell Ty that I got to run it in and he had to throw it in. I had better blocking." So Barry does that. Barry told us about, what was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago? He's like, I look on Instagram and I'll see something and I'll go, you know what, we're going to put that in this week. And he's really gotten really confident. I remember talking to Barry after his first year here, where he said, "Man, trying to coordinate offenses against Big Ten defenses is just so much different than anything I've ever had in my career. Like, the defenses here are just so different. It's going to take me some time." And I never thought that it was like that regionally different. Turns out, like, I probably should have known better. But now that he's in his third year here at Illinois, the 2022 season, he admits was slow, and Chase Brown got him right. In 23, he was pretty good, but he felt like he had to play catch up all the time with the defense. 24 was probably his best year, and obviously in 25, he's been here 4 years. He's really gotten used to the idea of, he's really gotten confident. He's really gotten confident. Bielema even said today, he goes, when Barry speaks in a loud, like almost defiant tone and voice, like he knows something good's going to happen, over the headset. And so I think Barry's gotten really, really confident with who he is and what he is and how he's going to scheme it up. And you saw that today, because I just thought for the entire 60 minutes, Barry Lunny's just completely in his bag. And I got to give him credit and Bart Miller credit, because I don't think the two of them, I've said it before, I don't think the two of them really are in sync all the time about how they want offense to be run. Let's just say, I think they get along really, really well. I'm not trying to start a problem here, but I think it's taken some time for Barry Lunny to adjust to somebody like having an offensive line coach like Bart Miller, who has a different idea of how to scheme it up in the run game than Barry's ever had. And I think that over time, they've gotten really, really good at meshing their two philosophies together into something that works. And I think you're going to see that in these last now 4 games, because Illinois is bowl eligible. But I think you're going to see that with Barry. And I think that's why Barry's this offseason going to, again, be a very, very attractive G5 head coaching candidate.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, I know for a fact, we reported it here at Illini Guys that he interviewed for 2 jobs this past offseason. I'd be shocked if he's not a really, really attractive, Sun Belt type head coach, like, American Conference,
Yep.
Type of head coach. But just with the way that he schemes it up, the way that he sees football, his experience as as a interim head coach, after with his alma mater at Arkansas, and then just being able to kind of learn at the feet of Bielema. I think he's going to be very, very attractive, and it's no secret that Illinois' offense is really, really dynamic this year, and a lot of their opponents have already said so.
Yeah. So we got to kind of get it close to a wrap,
Sure.
but Illinois is going to be playing against Maryland. I think Maryland made the mistake of making Indiana angry by getting out to that 3-0 lead. Now it's 17-3, and Indiana seems to be like a boulder going down a hill. So it could be really painful for Maryland. How's this team's head coming into maybe physically the best of the 3 teams they're going to play in the remainder of the Big Ten season?
If Illinois' defense continues to gain confidence off of this, I don't think Maryland can score enough to beat Illinois. And that's – they haven't done it all year, Mike. They've really relied on special teams and defense and turnovers to keep the game in the 20s. I just don't think that they can score enough to handle Illinois. And that's kind of where I see this. I think Locke has really kind of done a yeoman's job of trying to get everything he can out of this offense this year.
Yep.
It's a very, very young Maryland team. And it's also a team that's got a little bit of I would say it's kind of Walking Dead in the sense that, like, I think there's a lot of fan fatigue with Locke. But then again, I think it's kind of like what you saw today with Schiano, where I think a lot of the Rutgers fans realize, well, if it's not going to work with Schiano, it's not going to work.
Right, exactly.
A lot of Maryland people really feel like if it's not going to work with Locks, it's not going to work. So with the way he's able to kind of recruit in the DMV area. But no, I don't think Maryland can score enough to if Illinois doesn't turn it over, if Illinois executes on offense, and if Illinois' defense continues to get a lot of confidence, I think Illinois should be a similar type favorite that they were today against Rutgers. One of the things I think that's really interesting, Mike, is that I think that there's something to be said for, like, again, these quarterbacks that Illinois is going to face these last three games. You always have to. You have to put salt in everything that Brett Bielema says on this topic. But
right,
he said that Dylan Rosiak should be back after the bowl game. He said that Leon Lowry was really, really close, and they just couldn't get him across the finish line to play him. Okay, cool. Well, if those 2 guys come back, the defense then has even more confidence. And I think Illinois can win a home game against Rutgers. I just flat out I do. And then I think whoever Wisconsin plays at quarterback is not a dual threat, factor. And that's a huge win for Illinois. And then if Preston Stone is healthy enough at the end of the year, I think that we know he's not a dual threat, and we know that he likes to throw it to the other team. So that's a big thing for Illinois. So I think that, like I said to you, what was it, a month ago, I thought Illinois' defense would regress to the mean, meaning get a lot better, and then everybody plays better teams in November. So they come down, and as Illinois' defense comes up. So I thought the big thing was, you had Brett. I thought the big thing came out of today was you had Brett Bielema acknowledge the big elephant in the room and go, hey, shut the up. Like, everybody, like, he's my guy. Like, leave me alone. And there was a performance like 4 hours earlier, for the last 4 hours, that kind of justified the, I won't say a middle finger, but like, kind of like, hey, leave me alone kind of thing. And so that was the most interesting thing that came out of today, because I think 20 years, or not 20 years ago, God, what, 5-8 years ago, we would have made a big deal today about Illinois being bowl eligible. And like, that is we talked about that earlier, Matt. And Luke Altmaier just goes, oh yeah, like, we won 6 games. That's cool. Like, I mean, that's where this program is now. And it's it's kind of fun when you kind of go, oh yeah, we were like, I mean, I'm not going to name him because it'll embarrass him, but I had a colleague on our beat kind of just continually ask guys about how excited they are about having a 13th game and getting bowl eligible and getting to the 6th win. And everybody was like, well, we kind of thought we were a bowl eligible team all year. Like, I mean, that in the same way that I don't think the CFP was at the top of the expectation chart, I'm telling you that bowl eligibility was at the bottom. I know that for a fact. So
hey, look,
that's where the program is. And you can kind of have a get right game against a Rutgers. I don't know if Illinois, I mean, Mike, again, we're dealing with an idea that in 2025, I think it's obviously almost been a decade where Illinois in the league feels like they have a get right game, right? So that's what this was today, and for so many different reasons, and Illinois executed it really well.
Yeah,
go ahead.
They stopped a streak, and Illinois being relevant in November. It's so much better to see a 6-3 team versus a 2-7 team that we've been treated to in the pre-Bielema era so many times.
There's a chance for Illinois to be a double-digit favorite in each of the last 3 games in order for them to get to another 9-3 regular season.
Yeah,
that's pretty impressive. And
if you would have told me, this is where I tell it to Bielema's face. He knows it, but if you would have told me that he was going to have this team at this height, I would have said, I don't know if you can do that. And man, he proved me wrong up one side and down the other. And I'm never been so happy. So sure. This is what Illinois needs. So any final thoughts then? And then we will wrap this puppy up.
Like I said, a get right game where you win by 22 and everything kind of just felt comfortable. You know, yep. I think that's what this was today. And I think with the matchup that Illinois' defense is going to see in the last 3 weeks, coming off of again, probably another much needed bye week, just to get right. Illinois' defense could look a lot better than they did in September and October, just simply because I think the matchup's better, and not because these teams stink. It's a specific quarterback scheme that they're more prepared to play right now than kind of an all over the place offensive scheme that they've seen in September and October. And from that standpoint, if the defense continues to build confidence, let Illinois get to 9-3, and then Mike, you and I both go on the Illini Guys message board and see what the comments are about the offseason. Because I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Let them go to 9-3 and then tell me exactly what you think is really, really wrong. And again, I just Illinois is at a place now under Brett Bielema in year 5 where this is an absolute get-right game where I think there would have been a lot of panic had Illinois either struggled or lost. And they showed up today as a 13-point favorite and took care of business. And you're seeing that a lot more now in year 5 of the Bielema era.
Yep, I totally agree. So, folks, if you've enjoyed this conversation, you can always join at IlliniGuys.com. Please, we would love to have you join there, be a member. We greatly value creating a community and having folks, enjoying Illini sports together. $99 a year, basically 27 cents a day. That allows us to give you all the coverage that we can get you. Allows us to fly Matt and others across the country when Illinois plays in this new expanded Big Ten, or Coach Underwood wants to be in New York City. Allows us to be able to cover that effectively for you. So please think about joining there. And what the key is, you get all of our articles, plus you get the message boards, which are awesome. It's a great community of Illini fans, and you can talk to Ked, Matt, Brad, myself, and Larry, and you don't have to worry about, well, why did he say that, or what did they mean? You just ask us. It's a lot of fun. Of course, you can follow us on IlliniGuys.com's YouTube page. You can obviously get us here at the St. Louis Sports Central YouTube page as well. And, of course, get to us on our X pages as well. Again, more ways you could follow us, more ways we can get you information on the Illini, the Big Ten, and college sports in general. And we have our Illini Guys Sports Spectacular radio show that's out there. Please tune us in or get that podcast. And our Eye on the Illini podcast is a lot of fun. And in 2 days, the Fighting Illini are starting the basketball season, so we'll be here Monday night to cover that game. Until then, folks, go Illini.